Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Frienemy Podcast, episode number 4. I'm your host, Mike, and joined by satellite for the first time, my co-host, JP. JP, why are you joining us via satellite?
I had a little run-in with a national pandemic called the Ronavirus.
You have the Rona?
I have the Rona. It got me.
Who are you making out with? What happened?
Statistic.
You what?
I am a statistic now.
You're a statistic. You're nothing more than a statistic. So if the audio quality is a little subpar this week or a little off, it's JP's fault. It's not my fault.
Speaking of which, I was mad at you the other day, so I copped in an envelope and I mailed it to you. So if you get a letter from a Paul Caliente, go ahead and just throw it away.
Throw it away? Okay. All right. Thanks for the heads up. You're the only person I know that's weaponizing the COVID right now. With that being said, JP, we're going to throw it over to our sponsor this week. Do you care to share with the folks out there what our sponsor is?
Yes, today's sponsor is the American metal band Tyrannosaurus Sex. Please listen to the Tyrannosaurus Sex's sophomore album, Brontosaurus, available on Spotify, iTunes, and Tidal.
Oh, that's a good one. We're happy to have that sponsor. We have a fan letter that we got written in this week. I'm going to read that. Like we do every week. We appreciate all the feedback. You guys are writing in, telling us about what man movies we should watch next, whose pee-pee we should touch, and asking us questions in general. So I'm going to get right to it. This week's fan letter says, "Howdy, Frienemy Podcast. I'm a big fan, even of JP. He's not bad for a brown feller. My question is for Mike. Mike, I too have dabbled in dildo carving. I am able to make the Doc Johnson realistic and the Whopper 8-inch. I have reached the mastery of the Pearl Shine and of the Power Stud Clitorific. Like you, my question is, which dildo is your favorite to carve and which is your favorite to use? Thanks, Judd. P.S. There is something about Kyle that makes me want to punch him." In that regard, I agree, Judd. I do. I think everybody, when they see that face, they just want to punch it. Getting back to your earlier question, I'm happy to hear that you're dabbling in the dildo world. I myself, it's something I've dabbled in the past. I kind of look at it like I'm a Hattori Hanzo of the dildo world. I made these amazing pieces of art. They're up on a shelf in my garage. You know, I go in and I look at them for long periods of time from time to time. I've never used. I've only made. And these pieces of art are there for others to enjoy, not myself. So as far as which one was my favorite to carve, well, I have the rabbit, and that thing is pretty mean. It's long, it's black, and it's got these little bunny ears that tickle in just the right spot, if you know what I mean. But keep going. It's an amazing hobby to get into, and I appreciate the letter today. So go out, you see Kyle, punch him in the face. That's what we're gonna do.
Thank you, Judd. Yeah, punch Kyle. He's very durable. Remember, he's like the Blob said that.
He is. If you punch him hard enough, you can get down to that twink layer.
My good answer. I respect you don't get high on your own supply. You just build them.
I'm a man to please. I aim to please, and if I can do that through my craft, then so be it. I like to work with my hands. Moving on to everyone's favorite segment, we're gonna move on to this week's man movie. JP. Man movies. JP, what's the man movie this week?
This week is Total Recall, which was, I actually had to rewatch it. I watched it when I was younger. Like, almost all man movies were kind of always on TNT, and we've seen them almost at one time. But I had to rewatch it, and I am not disappointed about rewatching it at all.
Do you want to give us a little synopsis about what goes on in the movie Total Recall? This is the Arnold Schwarzenegger version. This is not the one, the shitty remake with Colin Farrell. JP.
Now, when I was watching it, I actually saw the shitty remake I saw the advertisement for it, and I knew it was a shitty remake just by the title. So, they remade it? It's going to suck. I didn't even have to know, to look at it. But so, Total Recall stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, He's in the future, which I believe they don't specify what time, right?
No, I don't think they say the year. I kind of like that. They keep it ambiguous. I hate when movies put on like Terminator has this problem. Like they say, oh, in the year 1999 or whatever, you know, like all the nuclear weapons hit, and that dates it. Whereas like in this movie, they don't say the year, so it's not dated. It could still be in our future.
So there's a rebellion going on in Mars. So in this movie, we're in other planets. We're living in other planets. So Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, all that. And there's a rebellion going on. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is just this regular guy who keeps dreaming about Mars. And he goes to this place where they can implant memories. And it triggers off his brain. You find out that he's a spy from Mars. This is pretty much the premise of Total Recall.
Yeah, I like that aspect. So instead of paying a fortune and having to travel to these other planets to experience them, they have the ability to implant memories forcefully. Well, not forcefully. You go by choice, but they have the ability to implant memories into your head. And one of the main plot points of the movie is that he has this memory implant, supposedly, but that awakens a special agent memory in his head. Now, what I like about this movie is it's ambiguous as to whether this is actually going on or not. By the way, spoilers. We're going to do this every single time. We've spoiled every Man movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going out and watching it. But we are going to spoil the movie, spoil the plot points quite a bit. But that's one major plot point is he actually a special agent on Mars, or is this all part of the Total Recall package that he purchased back on Earth? I like that part. That's kind of interesting.
And so you end up finding out he is a spy. So there's the first plot ruiner right there. And he goes to Mars disguised as a fat lady, which was a great scene.
Right. I like a lot of the action leading up to that, leading up to him going back to Mars. He wakes up from Total Recall. He fights the staff. Like, he's extremely violent in the entire movie. Like, with his bare hands, Arnold Schwarzenegger's running around and just murking people. He ends up killing his coworkers and goes back to his apartment where he meets his quote-unquote wife, played by, her name is Lori, played by Sharon Stone in this movie.
She is hot in the movie.
She is totally hot in this movie. She actually trained quite a bit. Arnold Schwarzenegger has said that he was so impressed with her training. She took on a lot of weightlifting and even learned Taekwondo. And in their fight scene, she's thrown some pretty badass kicks.
Yeah. My favorite, though, is when she kicks him in the nuts. And the camera pans to Arnold's face, and he just shows up. Oh, I'm like,
one thing I appreciate about Arnold Schwarzenegger is he has no problem making the stupidest fucking faces in all of his movies. This one, for half the movie, he has the dumbest face on, whether he's in the Total Recall machine and it's electrocuting him, whether he's pulling the tracking device out of his nose. His face during that one is crazy. And like JP said, when he gets kicked in the nuts.
But the best part about it is, like, it wasn't like an outward pan scene where, like, he turns to the camera and shows his face. Like, she kicks him in the nuts, second delay, his face. Oh! Just, like, he had to let the audience know that hurt him getting kicked in the nuts. It was great.
Another thing that I really appreciate about this movie is the amount of blood squibs. So this movie might take the cake for blood squibs. A blood squib is a small explosive. It's a prop device placed on a body. It's actually a small explosive like blood packet. So in the 80s, to simulate somebody getting shot, they would use a blood squib. And I still think they look really damn realistic. Like, they're kind of crazy looking. So there's a scene when he's running from these government agents that are trying to capture him, and he's on an escalator, and he ends up grabbing some poor guy as a meat shield. So this poor guy, he's riding up the escalator. He ends up grabbing him, using him as a meat shield, and I think they use 100 blood squibs on this guy. He gets obliterated by bullets, and then he just kind of just tosses the guy like a sack of trash onto these guys. It's crazy. And then that scene leads into what JP was talking about, the whole fat lady in disguise scene. Do you want to talk about that scene? Did you like that scene?
Yeah, that scene. So he's in a disguise, and it looks just like a legit fat lady. And they ask, how long are you going to be on Mars? And she says, 2 weeks. And then he goes, do you have any fruit or vegetables you bring to the planet? And she's all, 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and her head explodes for like, or once it gets all giant, like it's about to explode.
Well, the problem is he only recorded enough dialogue on the machine, and one of the only phrases that he could say was 2 weeks. So when he tried to answer another question, the machine wouldn't let him do it, so it like malfunctioned. I like when he's trying to control the mouth, and he's like 2 weeks. And then apparently it's also a bomb because he ends up throwing it in order to escape. He ends up running in. Oh, go ahead.
And then the dumb flunkies, the people, they're supposed to be special agents, so you would think they know better than to shoot bullets at glass and break a hole into the whole biosphere that they have on Mars.
No, that actually ends up happening quite a few times, actually. Like, you would think why have glass? Why even have glass?
Yeah, it should be like plastic.
It should, or something. Like it's kind of I guess it's a plot hole in the movie, but it makes for some interesting set pieces.
That guy's Victor too, by the way.
What's that?
His name is Victor.
Oh, the main guy is Richter.
Oh, it's Richter.
Yeah, with an R, it's Richter. So if you watch it with subtitles, it's Richter. But because of Arnold's thick accent.
Yeah, I thought it was Victor. I mean, because our friend Victor's a villain, so I just associated it.
Welcome to the party, Richter. Or I'll see you at the party. So he ends up running from these government agents. His only real connection to his previous life, I guess, is this female prostitute named Melina. So he ends up going to a whorehouse on Mars. And there we see, for the first time, our first movie, actually, with some boob. And not only do we get some boob, we get 3 boobs on one lady. JP, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we get to see the old tri-titty. And she's Asian, right?
No, she's not. She looks Hispanic, if anything. But the reason she has 3 boobs is, I guess there's really bad radiation on Mars. So you end up with all these mutations. And she's... Luckily for her, I guess, she's mutated to have three boobs. It's pretty cool.
Oh, you can't forget that they have their token black guy in that movie too, cab driver.
The cab driver, Benny. So Benny plays a big part in the movie. You end up finding out that he's actually a mutant as well. His arm is all weird. I like it when he goes to the whorehouse. There's some really good dialogue back and forth between him and Melina. She grabs his crotch. What have you been feeding this thing? And he answers, blondes. And then he's walking up the stairs with Melina, and this dude with a fucked up face comes up to him, and he's like, you got a lot of nerve showing your face around here, Hauser. And then Arnold looks at him and goes, look who's talking. Some of the great dialogue in the movie.
There's some good dialogue. Benny, he has good dialogue too. He's like, I'm one of you, baby. When he tells his little fake arm.
That gross alien arm. And then all of that culminates with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who plays a character dual named as both Hauser, who is his secret agent identity, and then he plays Douglas Quaid. That's his quote unquote like Earth name, I guess you would say, his cover name. All of that culminates with him meeting Quado. JP, do you want to talk about Quado?
So Quado is supposedly he's a psychic on Mars. He's leading the revolution. You end up finding out he's a perma-pregnant man.
That's exactly what it looks like. It looks like he tried to give birth, but through the wall of his stomach. It's a very convincing piece of practical effects. That's one thing I really appreciate about the movie is there's very little CG. This was before CGI was really prevalent, so all of the effects are for the most part practical.
And it actually looks good. Like most CGI that's that old looks dated. This movie doesn't look that dated. Even the quality of the film. I don't know if it's my TV or what, but I was surprised. I was like, this does not look bad.
It looks pretty good. And then, they made so many physical models, like when they fall out into the Martian atmosphere or lack thereof, and they're suffering for lack of oxygen, and their faces start to get all contorted and their eyes bulge out. Like, that's a practical effect that looks really, really convincing. Like, it looks horrible to be on the Martian surface without any air.
That's one of the plot points too, is that they figured out that aliens on Mars, they built a machine that makes Mars have an atmosphere.
Right.
The lead guy, not Richter's boss, is selling air to the Martians.
Damn you, Cohagen! Give these people air.
Yeah, Cohagen.
Yeah, his name's Cohagen.
What made me laugh is when they fell out of the biosphere and their face is about to explode. Like, a whole atmosphere fills the planet in like a minute.
And they got lucky that it filled it in a minute. Yeah, you're exactly right. The skies turn blue. Like, the entire ending wraps up in like JP said, like the course of a minute. They go from defeating the bad guy to saving the entire planet.
I would be disappointed though if I was Quaid, because my fake wife is way hotter than my actual love interest.
I appreciate the Melina character, but you're right. Sharon Stone in that movie. I saw it when I was younger. It probably was very influential on me growing up, and she remains one of my like childhood crushes, especially from that movie. She's pretty gorgeous. She kind of gets done dirty at the end. He ends up shooting her in the head, and he says, "Consider that a divorce."
Yeah.
So again, that's some great dialogue. The movie's based on a book by Philip K. Dick. This guy has written a lot of things that have been adapted, especially in the 80s. Blade Runner was also adapted from one of his books. So the source material's really good, and good enough that they tried to unfortunately reboot it in the 2000s. That didn't go so well. I recommend watching the original for sure.
Yeah, so if you feel like being manly, hearing some good catchphrases and having a good time, watch it.
Speaking of being manly, we're going to move on to a new little sub-segment that we're going to start doing for all of our man movies. We're going to do man grades for all of our movies. We have 4 categories that we're going to grade the movie on, and I'm going to give my grade, talk about it a little bit. JP's going to give his grade, talk about it a little bit. The first criteria that we're going to be grading on today is action. JP, what did you rate Total Recall for action?
I give it a B minus. B minus. There's some good action scenes, but obviously Arnold was an amateur of martial arts. I mean, he's a pro in being swole and lifting weights, but very slow punches, very calculated. Elbow.
Yeah, he just goes around pretty much clubbing everybody with his giant arms.
But still, there's enough action to keep it. I give it a B minus. It still doesn't fall to average. It's a little above average.
I respect that, and going on that theme, I gave it a B plus. There's some action set pieces that I really appreciate. A lot of it is just guys shooting at each other. Nobody really takes cover. A lot of blood squibs. I think the amount of blood squibs bumped up the action for me a little bit. So I gave it a B plus. I like the scene when he has the hologram wrist watch. And he's fighting all these government agents, and they think they're shooting him, but they're really shooting a hologram. I thought that part was pretty clever, so that bumped it up a little bit for me. JP, do you want to talk about our next category?
Our next category is dialogue, which I gave it a solid B. Solid B because I love puns. 80s movies full of puns, and I've heard Arnold do a lot more puns and better puns in other movies.
It's funny you gave it a B. I gave it a B as well, and for the exact same reasons. Arnold, I think any movie with Arnold, I'm probably going to give a B as far as dialogue. They give him great one-liner dialogue, and I love his one-liners in this movie. They're not as good as some of his other movies, as JP pointed out. I think he's got better dialogue in other movies, and they get into some science mumbo jumbo, and some of the stuff is just boring. But I think a B's fair. That's fair.
Fair, yeah. I like when he stuck the drill into Benny and was like, "Screw you,
screw you, Benny," and then Benny screams, "Ah!" Yeah, that's great. That's the type of dialogue I expect from an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Moving on to our next category, and that's going to be 80s boob. JP, what did you give Total Recall in the category of 80s boob?
Okay, our grading is on an A to F scale, but I switched this one up a little bit. 80s boob, I give it a 3.
You give it a 3, and that's because We saw the Triboob. The Triboob. I actually had to give it a B. You would think I would give it an A, but I found out that this movie was made in 1990. We missed 80s boob by a year. I promised everybody 80s boob. We didn't deliver this week. We missed it, JP.
I thought we delivered.
Yeah, I thought we did too, but I ended up looking it up. The movie was made in 1990. We missed the cutoff, but because the infamous Triboob, I still have to give it a B. That's more boob than we've seen in our previous 3 movies combined.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's something. JP, do you want to talk about our final category?
Our final category is overall manliness. And even though this math doesn't really add up, I got a B- for action, a B for dialogue, a 3 for 80s boob, but I give it an A for overall.
An A is pretty high. It's a pretty manly movie. I respect that grade. I really do. I gave it a B+, a little bit lower than yours. It's definitely a man movie. My wife walked out about halfway through. She tapped out. She couldn't put up with the Arnold Schwarzenegger dialogue and the overall plot of the movie. I think a B+ is pretty fair. I think it's pretty high, and it's a pretty manly movie. Anytime you have Arnold running around, he's not like particularly shirtless or anything in this movie, showing off the guns. He's just a big dude, but I still love it.
Established it in the beginning, though.
Yeah, it's true. He's the construction worker kind of thing.
Yeah, he's the jackhammer.
The needless, shirtless jackhammer scene, I guess you can say. But I love this movie. I grew up on it. I was really excited to bring this on the show today as our man movie of the week. I think that wraps it up for man movies, JP.
Yeah, I do have to admit this is a manlier movie than our last man movie.
Right. It is. I mean, it's up there as far as man movies go on my list, and that's why I was excited to talk about it today.
Our next segment is everyone's favorite segment. Would you touch his pee-pee?
Would you touch his Pepe? And JP, who are we touching today?
This is a very high worthy pee-pee touch. Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, Mr. Michael B. Jordan.
Adonis Creed himself.
Yeah, he's oh man, he's a good one. He's been in such movies as JP just said, Creed, Creed 2, Black Panther, Fantastic Four, and he was also on the TV show The Wire. JP, what do you appreciate about Mr. Michael B. Jordan?
Of course, he got gains. He's pretty shredded. Put on a lot of muscle to play Adonis Creed.
He's ripped in that movie, and then he gets even bigger. I feel like his physique's maybe not as shredded, but he's more muscle mass in Black Panther. I think
Killmonger?
Yeah, as the character Killmonger, he talks about how he wanted to put on more mass to be pretty physically imposing, and in that movie, with the scars all over his body, he looks pretty mean.
And he's just a regular orphan from Oakland, beat the shit out of Black Panther in that movie.
Right, this guy's T'Challa in that movie. He's had every advantage. Right, he's royalty. He's grown up with a silver spoon. I mean, he's a great fighter in his own right, but I appreciate that he just beats him straight up.
Yeah,
that was a cool twist of that movie. I really didn't expect that. Like, that was cool. He physically dominated Black Panther.
Beat his ass, threw him off a waterfall.
I'm upset with Marvel that they killed him off.
You know what, though? He's in the credits for Black Panther 2.
Ooh, how is that possible? I guess we'll have to find out.
Find out. Yes.
I guess I'm asking you ahead of time, Chippy. Tell me. Yeah, so I guess we'll have to find out. He's great in Black Panther. Chippy, have you seen the new Fantastic Four that he's in?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I have to admit I haven't seen it either. It got really bad reviews coming out, so it's one that I ended up skipping.
I know he's black, and his sister in that movie is white. So I'm guessing they're going for the porno stepbrother-sister relationship.
And he plays Johnny Storm in that movie. So, you're so hot, stepbrother. That's a weird family dynamic. I'm sure if I watched the movie, I would understand it better. I think it's in an adoption situation. It would have to be, right? If she's white and he's black, I don't really see any other way around that family dynamic.
He was also, according to the internet, he was going to be cast as the first black Superman.
You know, I would have bought that. Oh, you know what? They've been talking about casting a black 007 for a long time. I can totally see him playing that role too. I know you got to be British, but
well, I heard to get off track. I heard it's supposed to be Idris Elba at one time.
I would prefer that more.
Yeah,
that guy's that's another one that's certainly worthy of a PP touch. JP, anything else you want to say about Michael B. Jordan?
Get back to some more of his PP touching worthiness. He's actually a good boxer. Learned boxing for Creed. He's a great actor. I enjoy all of his movies.
He brought a lot of emotion in Black Panther. The anger at the death of his father. I appreciate it. He brought a lot of gravity to that movie. He wasn't just a throwaway Marvel villain that we've seen in the past. His motivations were realistic and understandable.
And he's a big dude too. He's like 6'3", 6. I don't know. He makes Black Chadwick Boseman look small when he stands next to him.
I don't know. I should have looked that up before to get a stat line. We should start doing that. We should get a stat line on our PP touching picks.
Okay. So he's a specimen. He's shredded. He's in great movies. He's a good guy. He's a good personality. People love him. He does charity work. So now the question is, would I touch his PP?
JP, everyone wants to know.
And the answer is no.
Really?
The reason that I would not touch his PP is because he let little G baby die in Hardball.
Oh, and that for you, that's unforgivable.
It's unforgivable. That's one of the saddest moments in movie history. It's up there with Selena dying.
Oh man, that's up there. That's up there, and I understand. I respect your take on this, your stance. But if you're asking me, would I touch his PP? Oh yeah. I'm fighting dudes on a waterfall to get to this guy's PP. I'm over here. We're in knee-high water. I've got my shield. There's people around us chanting, a lot of hype, and I'm taking on guy after guy in order to take that crown, that ability to touch the black PP. I think with that concludes this week's segment of Would You Touch His PP? JP, do you want to take us on to our final segment?
Our final segment of this week, we have more of our relationship advice. Today's question is written in from one of our fans. It says that his girlfriend, now remember, this could be your girlfriend or it could be your bottom, is really insecure and she thinks that he is cheating on her. He wants to know, what should he do?
Okay, so she is insecure and
Yes.
she believes that he is cheating on her.
Yes.
Okay, this is a dilemma.
So would you like me to give my perspective first, my advice?
I think yours is going to be more appreciated. Yeah, we need to hear it.
One thing that I have learned in this ride called life is that if somebody is accusing you of something or insecure, they are doing that thing themselves.
Twist.
She's probably trying to find some dick on the side. Now she's worried that you are getting some badge on the side.
Badge.
So what you need to do is you need to go deep. You need to look at her purse up there. You need to try to go and get her phone, look through her text messages. Yeah, try to find the D that she's looking for. It might be labeled just side dick on her phone. You might look it up, call that number, try to text it, make a fake account of some dude, and send her a DM on Instagram, trying to hook up so you can catch her up.
Oh, so you're testing her.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So you're turning it up to 11.
Yeah. And at the same time, what you need to do is increase your security.
Okay, so...
Change the password on your phone. Change the passwords to your social media. Don't let her look over your shoulder.
And this is no way is getting more suspicious. This is actually taking the attention off you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because depending on your ethnic background or your wealth status, she could have a side dude, a Sancho, or extramarital boyfriend.
Oh my goodness. And to piggyback on the advice that JP just gave, I say crank it up, hire a private detective, have her followed everywhere she goes, to work, to the gym, to the bank. I mean, have him keep track of her at all hours of the day. That way she knows, hey, I care about you.
Exactly. She might be having not a sugar daddy. She might be a sugar mama.
Ooh, sugar mama.
That's why it's important that you follow her to the bank, like Mike said.
Follow her everywhere. Get that info, and then not violently. That was the wrong word, but confront her on it. Once you have all this info, you just surprise her with it. Just throw it in her face. And then when she accuses you of cheating, get extremely defensive. This works every time. Start yelling, start denying everything, because we all know that you're not cheating. And we're not advocating that you cheat, but we're saying if you're ever accused of it, the best thing to do is get extremely defensive and then turn it back on her 101%. Is that right, JP?
Yes. Like, you know your truth. She might think you're cheating, but what's more important is that you know you're not.
Right. I completely agree. And with that great relationship advice, I think that wraps up this week's segment of relationship advice. So we've covered our new sponsor, gone over our fan letter, learned a little bit about me and my hobbies. JP covered a man movie, Total Recall. You like that one a lot. We touched some peepees with Mr. Michael B. Jordan. Gave you some solid relationship advice. JP, anything you want to say to the folks going out?
I want to say, hey, Ryan. Hey.
Obligatory Ryan reference. Ladies and gentlemen, please like, comment, subscribe. All that stuff helps the channel. It helps get it out there to a broader audience. As always, we appreciate and love all the support we get. You guys have a good one.